Hello, world. This is Hello Chaos, the podcast about the ups and downs, trials and triumphs, and everything in between on entrepreneurship. I am Jennifer Oladipo, a.k.a. Jenno.
And I'm Jennifer Sutton, a.k.a. JJ. You know, double the twins.
That's right.
And Jennifers, the Jennifer team.
Twice the Jen, none of the price.
Today we have in our studio David Goldsmith, calling out of Rhode Island, and he's coming to us with youB, Y-O-U-B.
Just the letter B.
Just the letter B.
Hi, David.
David, thank you for being with us today.
Great to be with you.
Why don't you start with just giving us the 30,000-foot view of David and youB?
Sure. So youB is a community platform that we've just launched, and it's going to go through many mini revs over the next several months, but we're off and flying. And so it's a community platform for individuals, businesses, nonprofits, and local and state government dedicated to well-being for people and planet. So it's grounded in environmental and social responsibility. It's a values-based platform. And I work with Jennifer and other sustainability professionals all over the world to develop the model and to develop the values that everything is grounded in, environmental and social values. So that's a quick sketch of that. My background, I've been an entrepreneur. I launched my first official company when I was 29. I started as a paper route guy when I was in the fifth grade and learned that I love to work and did that every holiday. I'd get a part-time job for the week so I could have my own spending money. So I've been on on that track ever since. I realized when I was updating my bio for this business workshop that we're delivering this week, that this century, I love saying this century, I've launched 4 medical product companies.
Whoa.
And we folded one, we sold one, the other 2 are still running. I'm retired from day-to-day operations, still involved though, but my passion and focus for the past 2.5 years almost, is entirely on youB.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what made you decide that this time around, like as a serial entrepreneur, you were going to do this thing that is completely left
different
field of what you've been doing?
Yeah. So I was a scout. I grew up. I was a Cub Scout, Boy Scout, Explorer Scout. I loved being in the woods. I did 2 years of college, majoring in psychology, and then said, I'm out of here for a little bit, maybe forever. And I moved to Western Mass and lived in the mountains and the Berkshire Mountains, and lived in cabins and tents by myself for close to 3 years, and studied edible and medicinal plants. I ended up going back to school and to become an environmental ed teacher. And did that for a while, and that morphed into research. I was a research ecologist at Brown University, and then ended up having a whole bunch of business ideas and product ideas, and that's when I launched my first company. It was a line of jewelry for women using seashells. We called it she-shells.
Okay.
And so I had some success there, launched that, distributed internationally through distributors. But my grounding is as an environmentalist, as somebody that connects directly with nature, really cares passionately about nature and the natural order of things, and seeing what's going on in the world. When I in my first year of college, back in 1970, 1970. Okay, just to date me. One of the first books that I was given to read by my English teacher was Rachel Carlson's Silent Spring. and which was, as we all know, anybody that's read that, it was a clarion call back then of what is going on in the loss of biodiversity. So I've been involved in that ever since. I grew up in a family that was social activists. My parents were directly involved in the fair housing movement in the 50s. They protested at the State House. They lobbied. So I grew up in a family that if you see something that's wrong or an injustice, don't just look at it and hope that somebody does something about it.
Right.
Get involved.
That's right.
Join a nonprofit that's focused on it. Join with other people, whatever. So it became natural. So that it was actually in 2006 that I had the original idea for youB, but I was building one other company, Aided Scientific, and then we launched in 2013 Aspira Medical, and then in 2015 we launched Apicus Health Products. So it's just kind of like, okay, fine, so when we finally sold one, Apicus Health Products, it was we're all topical medications with natural ingredients. In that particular line, it was a line of topical analgesics for muscle and joint pain and arthritis made with CBD. We were one of the first companies to get into that space, and we blew up. We were early. We moved it into the practitioner market all over the country. We just went from zero to here, and then we went public, and then we signed Gronkowski, and then we sold the company.
Yeah. Who bought it? Was it a larger one of the pharmaceuticals?
Yeah, Charlotte's Web, which is probably the premier brand, and we had actually partnered with them early on. All of our CBD oil was exclusively from Charlotte's Web in our beginning. They couldn't keep up with our demand, so we needed to. But we had a very early strategic alliance with Charlotte's Web, and they went public before us, and at one time had $1 billion market cap, and so they bought us in the middle of COVID, and so it was crazy that they bought us, but thank you.
Yeah, that's right. So you've run the gamut. I mean, you've 4 companies in this century. That's amazing. What's been your best driving advice of when you've started to going from the entrepreneur to exit process? What has been the most important advice, or just
maybe a principle or something that you found that
has helped you be able to start and then go and then know this is my end point?
It's all about creating value. And then revenue. If you're creating value, real value that the people will pay for, then you have something that has that then hopefully is scalable.
Right.
We got lucky. I'll be really square with that. It doesn't happen every day of the week. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity. CBD. It was pot. Okay, let's call it what it is. It was cannabis. It's all cannabis sativa, whether it's CBD or it's THC.
Right.
It's all cannabis sativa. So that was the buzz, and we rode
you just hit
that.
the trend. Yeah,
we hit it at the right time. My partner was reading an article in Barron's magazine back in 2014 or 15, I forget exactly when, about what was going on in Denver with the cannabis and the projections of how big that could go across the country. And he said, David, we need to figure out some way to get in on this. And we were looking at each other as individual entrepreneurs / investors, and we actually looked at doing something in Denver and hired somebody to go out there and scope it out, and we explored a lot of opportunities. But then we realized our best opportunity was to leverage our existing manufacturing infrastructure. We're already developing and manufacturing all natural topical medications that we were selling in pharmacy and distributing worldwide and direct to consumer and through warehousing. And so we realized that was our best play, was to leverage that value and just develop a line of analgesics with CBD. and so we went to town on it. We have our own in-house developers, and we had a really fabulous product in terms of its efficacy. It exceeded our expectations.
Wow!
And we didn't know, there was no data on the efficacy of CBD for topical. All the research was on oral, for seizures, things like that. And so
were the other three companies in the same? You said they were medical products. Were they in the same kind of vein? So you kind of already knew the landscape, or was it completely different?
Somewhat different. The first company was actually we have a core technology that's in all of our formulations. Okay. It's a multivalent silver oxide, and that product, the application there was actually in cervical cancer screening. It was a diagnostic application. And but then Aiden Scientific was all around topicals. Aspira Medical was also topicals, but focused in wound care and rare skin disorders, especially that were wound related, especially in children, in infants. And then Abacus was topicals for pain.
Okay. So one of the big reasons why I wanted to have you on was, so the way I met David was he, I guess, was recruiting folks for like a sort of advisory board. Right. And I have a background in environmental journalism. And there was a really diverse group of people, but all some way environment related. And it was almost like a focus group kind of thing, looking at the product and looking at we were looking at everything from like what you were trying to do to how we would actually interact and how, because it's a content-based thing, so how would that work? And so I just thought that was an interesting process, and I would love for you to talk a little bit about that, because we weren't the first group, right? Like you've gone through multiple groups, and now that I'm hearing more about your other companies, I'm curious about, is this a process that you've done with multiple companies? Because you said it's all about value, and I'm seeing that that's how you figured out the value.
So like doing focus groups, and little forums, roundtables. Yeah,
like how have you been determining the value? And was that youB process unique, or is that something that you've been doing the whole time as an entrepreneur?
To some extent, the whole time. It's you can't do it in a vacuum and make assumptions. You need to validate your assumptions as
good research
as possible.
Right.
A great book to read, if you don't already know about it, is the Mom Test. It's like, Mom, I've got this great idea. Son, you are brilliant. It's going to be an enormous success. Thank you, Mom. Okay, and I'm going to invest $100,000 in it, of all my money, and then you find out, oh, wait a minute, my mom only said she liked it because she loved me. And she thought that was what I wanted to hear. Even if you tell your friends about your idea, they do the same thing. Yeah. You don't want to tell your friends about your idea. You want to go to perfect strangers and don't tell them your idea. You want to ask them questions where you're understanding. You're looking for validation, but not about your idea. You're looking for validation of your basic assumptions. And so that's what I did with youB, probably more than any of the other ones, because the money was coming out of my own pocket, probably, to fund this, get it rolling. But I reached out all over the world, quite frankly, and initially with sustainability professionals, first on the business side, because I was looking at the B Corp certification process. We might partner with them or just recommend that process. Part of my background, I skipped over briefly. In the 90s, I was trained because I used to do technical writing for some of my high-tech clients. And so one day they asked me, it was a semiconductor manufacturer, asked me if they could, if I could find a writer for them. They had a full business audit coming from General Motors. And so I looked at it and I said, well, gee, I could do that. And so I basically guided them through a process of assessing their preparing them for an on-site audit. So that led me then to get certified as an examiner of whole systems, mostly on the quality side, and technical writing. So I knew about auditing, and I had been a lead examiner for the Rhode Island Quality Award given up by the governor each year. So I looked at the B Corp standard and I said, geez, this is a bear. And they've got at that time, about 3,000 companies globally that are certified to the standard. And I'm like, geez, there's more than 3,000 companies in my town.
Wow.
So I'm like, there's something wrong here. And I studied the standard and I'm like, they're asking really good questions, but there's too many of them, and it's in minutia. And so I realized there was a need for something much, much easier and accessible especially for micro business, which is about 79% of all companies are micro, meaning they either have no employees or they only have a few, and then certainly small to mid-size. So I began to model something, and the first thing I wanted to do was to reach out to sustainability professionals on the business side to validate my basic assumption that there was a need for something easier and that would enable a company that wants to do right, but needs a clear and easy to follow pathway.
Right.
And so that's what we began to develop, and we've now really developed it. And that's actually the workshop I'm delivering tomorrow, and we'll be delivering that probably every other week. We'll both locally and then online. So you'll get an invite.
And that's really the youB value right there, right? Is how to engage with businesses and individuals of being able to be a part of the sustainable.
Yeah, and have movement. A clear pathway, and just to recognize, what you're doing, what you can do, what you should do, and then how to move further and make those next steps.
Right.
And so, how is it different when you were assessing value for
a product?
For a medical product
versus this is now a service.
Yeah.
So a medical product, and we're going through this right now. We're developing a whole new line of products. So, and we're also in one of our products, so we're changing the formulation, and so it's easy there because you can make prototypes. You make 100, 200, 300 samples, whatever, and you send them out to people, and you ask for feedback. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? Does it reduce your itching more, or your pain faster, or make your rash go away faster, or whatever? And you're able to get some feedback. So it's tactical, it's experiential in that way. In terms of your marketing messaging, then you could do focus groups, and you trial out different ways to express what it is that you're doing.
And then with youB, how has that worked? I mean, have you done how have you tested your marketing messaging?
Yeah, so we've done multiple focus groups with Gen Zs and millennials specifically, and we've continued to do that, and that will be an ongoing process. And now we're doing workshops with our members, and they're all experiential. So it's a continuous learning process. Not like you say, okay, we've got it, and that's it, because you're constantly getting feedback, and
got to continue to listen.
Continue to listen, and it's all about continuous improvement. And the same thing with being environmentally social responsible as an organization. Nobody's asking you to be perfect. They're only asking you to be committed, and commitment is evidenced by continuous focus.
Yeah.
So that's our model. Is basically it's a model to get companies on the track. We're committed to do this. We recognize that we need to be better, do better, and be a part of making things better. And so here's a clear pathway, and it's measurable, and they set goals, and there's a feedback mechanism built into our app. It's essentially set up as an app, so that companies know where they are, and that they know they're making progress.
Right. Hey, Dave, as I'm listening to you, I'm sitting there going, so you're one of the personality traits or characteristics that I'm picking up on you is you're a very curious person. I mean, everything that you've done from the 70s, 80s, 90s, that's what's driven you of just wanted to dissect things and understand and how to improve it. And, we've been talking a lot about even kind of our values and what we also see from other entrepreneurs is that's a characteristic of being curious. The other one that I thought was just, you had said, you don't have to be perfect, but just to be committed.
Yeah.
And, be driven or, that commitment, a little bit hungry there. And it's just, that's part of your value statement for your company, but it also sounds like that's a value statement for you as an individual and as a leader. And is that something that you're infusing through your team and as you're building your team?
Absolutely. Yep. No. And yeah, for sure. And those values are part of the values architecture. That's we call it ESR, environmental social responsibility. It's the values. These things are baked in there. So we as a company, youB, we're going to measure ourselves. We're going to build our culture and our company grounded in the values.
Right.
And we'll measure ourselves and score ourselves. and we won't be perfect. But the score in the different areas will be visible to us. So we will know, how are we doing and where do we need to do better? And we will ask our team members that will naturally grow over time to be honest with us and with each other. We screwed up on that. That we just did something that was against our core value of being honest or transparent. And okay, I learned my lesson there. So I'm going to try to be better, do better around that, because I know that I certainly want people to be honest and straightforward with me. It's just much easier than guessing and playing games with each other. So, that was a behavior that I had 20 years ago, and every once in a while it rears its head. Can any one of us? Okay, as long as all the cards are on the table and we all are committed to doing our best to do better and knowing that we're all going to fail. Okay. Creativity is about acceptance of failure and allowing for failure. Because if you don't allow for failure, how can you be creative? How can you venture forward? You have to be willing to.
Spoken like a true innovator.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurs never give up.
That's right.
That's right. Right. That's the difference between what makes you an entrepreneur or someone who isn't, and it's you just keep going.
You just keep going.
You didn't give up.
You fail and you realize that you just learned from it and you dust yourself off and keep moving forward.
So, David, are you talking about actually formally assessing your own organization the way other folks would, or are you talking about just some more? Okay.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And our score will be transparent. Huh. So we're a benefit corporation, if you know what that is. Yeah. It's not the certified B Corp.
Yeah. Can you give a quick rundown for folks?
Yeah.
Sure. A benefit corporation is in most states now an alternative in how you are incorporated. So you can incorporate either as a profit or nonprofit, right?
Right.
So you can be an LLC or whatever, but there's another designation that you can adopt, and it's called a benefit corporation, and it's a triple bottom line, meaning people, profit, planet. It's my dog Sky. We had a flock of wild turkeys out here a little while ago, and so it's almost a hybrid between profit and nonprofit, because a nonprofit, as you know, has to operate with total transparency.
Right.
It's okay. That's why it's granted its tax privileges. So a benefit corporation is fully taxed. We're a benefit corporation and currently an S corp.
Okay.
At some point, we'll convert to a C Corp. But the benefit corporation is basically you operate with transparency, and you are committed. You're essentially a social enterprise.
Okay.
You are committed to making things better for people and planet.
Right. To a cause or a mission. Okay.
So as a result of that, we will be transparent with a lot of things that companies are not normally transparent about. And clearly one of them will be our score. And any of the companies that are part of our community that go through our process, their score will be transparent once they have reached a certain level where they are youB ESR approved. And they can determine for themselves the level of transparency that they want to have to the public. But we all know, as consumers, we want companies to be more transparent. We want each other to be more transparent, and so that's part of our model. Encouraging honesty and transparency.
Right.
Yeah. What's the scale you envision? So you said you looked at B Corp and there were 3,000 or 30,000, and that just wasn't enough. So what is this?
You know what? It was 3,000.
3,000. Okay.
It's now. They claim now it's up to around 5,000. But again, that's a fraction of the number of companies in Providence.
Yeah. So what do you think? What's your goal? I mean, what scale do you see youB growing to as, youB ESR certified organizations?
My vision is millions. I
and
want
globally,
this,
right?
And globally,
right.
I want, so really what we're doing is something that our mission is to dramatically increase the number of individuals and companies that are truly committed to environmental and social responsibility. And so come on board. If you do care, if you really want to be committed, you in your mind want to be a part of the solution. You're not sure always what to do, and whether you're harming by accident, indirectly, or whatever, and you want to be informed. Our model is to inform, inspire, and motivate. And so there are three legs, if you will, or circles of our platform. The first one is community, and it's about connectivity, and everyone has a profile, much the same way you do on LinkedIn. But it connects you with other people, and a lot of activity around community groups and peer-to-peer mentoring and all the things that, again, a whole focus of it is to help each other be better, do better, make things better.
Right.
And then you have the content side. It's the whole platform of curated content.
That's right.
Again, grounded in the values to provide, to inform, inspire, and motivate. Right. And then you have the third leg, which will come later, is a marketplace, because we all want to buy products and services from companies that are good for people and planet.
Right.
But where the hell do you find them?
Yeah.
So if we have a process for companies to be certified, meaning youB ESR approved, we've made it easier for them to get there because we have an easier, shorter pathway.
Right.
Then the natural extension is now we enable them to offer their products and services as companies that are committed to ESR for other companies to find, if it's B2B and B2C.
Right.
And so
even
that's
for
the third.
recruitment.
Oh yeah, recruiting people. Well, JJ is just saying that if you're a company and you're looking for folks who are, you've got that kind of company and you're looking to recruit like-minded talent,
right?
It could even be like a recruitment
that would be
a
great talent, workforce.
Absolutely. If you're a company that's committed to ESR, you want to hire people that are and for the same reason. If I'm an individual and I'm a programmer, I'm a whatever,
right.
I want to work for a company that's committed to ESR.
That's right.
Find them.
There's a place where you can find them.
So what was the background behind the name you? I mean, I understand the B part, but the youB. Like, where did that name come from?
Well, it started with, you be the change. I mean, I think Gandhi basically said that back in the 40s or whenever.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's like, okay, let's make it youB, but let's drop the E and make it a word. Turns out there are many people in the Middle East that have the last name of youB, youB,
youB.
Or whatever.
Oh, that's interesting.
But we did trademark it. It's a registered trademark. We actually, as I mentioned, I had this idea originally in 2006. We trademarked it in 2012, and it's now also we have a foothold globally with the trademark. So that's it. youB, four letters.
And it's a membership based, right? So that's your revenue model is pay to be a part of the membership to get the content. Okay.
Exactly. It's an advertising free platform.
Okay.
So the one thing that is really different and that is a real challenge for folks these days is that it is that community aspect is really different from just providing, say, like media, right? For just providing content, actually building community as part of the service.
Right.
So how have you dealt with that? I mean, what have been some of the challenges in doing that?
Well, we're really just getting rolling on that because we just went live with our community platform, which is a placeholder until we finish building our own. That went live about a month ago, so people could actually start joining. I think we've got about 50 members right now, and now we're reaching out to business. We're just starting that.
Okay.
So we've got to kind of put all of our ducks together. But what we're doing, we're building community by having experiential workshop. People can come together and share. The focus is around values or the value categories. First one is healthy me. And so we had a workshop last week. It was well attended, and it was a really rich conversation of people from here and the Middle East. It was really an interesting mix of people sharing their insights and personal lived experience around personal individual health and well-being, safety and security, self-determination, a healthy mind, love and belonging. Those are some of the values within a healthy me. Yeah. And so that's the way we build community. And so as we get more and more members, then groups will naturally form around specific areas of focus. Right. Those groups could either be geocentric, meaning it's a Providence-based group that meets face to face, or it's a value-focused group that meets from anywhere in the world. And ideally, these are as diverse as possible, because we all know that the more diverse the makeup of the group, the richer the experiences for everyone. Right. The more you get out of it.
So you're essentially using events and interpersonal connections to connect people together. Because I think, the challenge that a lot of folks have is maybe trying to use a platform where all the interaction is sort of focused on the platform, like say like a Facebook group. You don't really connect with one-to-one or with each other. It's just sort of responsive to whatever is being put out by, whoever owns the platform. But you're really trying to get people to connect with each other.
Small groups, groups of 12. Think of the Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah. Okay.
Small groups, people can feel a sense of intimacy and safety in sharing, and so that's our model. And we'll be doing the same thing with businesses, where you can form groups of other solo practitioners that are all wanting to be as social environmentally responsible as they can, and they're working through some of these things around maybe supply issues or any number of factors, or their challenge with hiring, vendors and contractors who are as diverse as possible. And how have you done that? And I did. Oh, no kidding. Oh my God, that's so helpful. And so you're learning from each other. It's a learning community. And then larger companies in manufacturing that are working with their own supply issues, and wanted to, audit their suppliers to determine what are their labor practices, where do they source from, is there environmental injustice going on that they're not aware of, that they want to be aware of, because they don't want to be indirectly responsible for environmental injustice from some raw material or product or component that they're buying, that they're relying upon. So it's about putting pressure down the supply chain, but also moving. If you have alternative sources, when you're looking at your alternative sources, you're looking for sources that are as environmentally, socially responsible as they can be. And again, they don't need to be perfect, but if they're committed and they're continuous to continue improvement, then you can work together. And you want to see evidence that it's not greenwashing, that it's what's the plan. And so you'll have companies that will push our ESR guide and self-assessment down to their suppliers, the same way that General Motors and other major corporations are pushing their own assessment models down to their to their suppliers.
So, David, when you look back at your career, what have been your biggest aha moments from a startup or to an exit, or as you accelerate? What's been a big aha moment? And then what's been the big, oh shit, like, oh my God, what have I done? Or that big failure that you said, I learned from this, I will never do this again. Have you had any of those moments? I'm sure you have.
Yeah. How long do you have?
Yeah. There can be more than one. Yeah.
Yeah. No, you learn from your mistakes. So, I've let me just look at it, because I did make some notes around this.
You were prepared.
I tried to be. So, one of them is I really wish I launched youB during COVID. Everybody was home, and it would have been a great time in 2020 to launch it. But, I was up to here with Abacus until we sold it, and so. There's only so much you can do.
That's right.
So it's one. Another one. Going back to before Aidence Scientific, we spun that out of a holding company, and we ended up in a legal dispute with the holding company, and my partner and I were on the board, and we got it was a shareholder revolt. We got kicked off the board. The board got replaced. We were in entanglement for probably 3 years, good 3 years. And during that time is when I had the idea for youB, but we were in the middle of this, and I really thought about just leaving, just saying this is just too much. But we finally prevailed because Aidence that we spun out of that was really getting traction. We were really doing really well, and the holding company was starting to flounder. So we were able to go back to the shareholders, and we started off with the largest shareholder, and he signed on, and then we went from there, and we ended up transferring all the assets of the holding company over to Aidence.
Wow!
All the IP, everything.
So, what was the lessons learned? If you could go back and do something over again
for
that situation,
it was about clear communication, and because looking back, there were some things that were not disclosed and shared and properly addressed at the time that they needed to be, and they came back to bite us, and they caused a lot of uncertainty and confusion and mistrust.
Yeah,
and that's what led to the 3 year. In the desert, so kind of thing. So that was, that was a big one. We prevailed, but we lost a lot of time and initiative because we didn't, anyway.
Was it clarity of communication on your end that you guys were, or as you were entering in the with the holding company, they were not clear?
It was mutual, and there was
Okay.
there was a big lack of full disclosure.
Okay.
Holding your cards too close.
Yeah.
It was mistrust.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was mistrust, and mistrust comes from lack of full disclosure.
Right.
Right. So to me, it was an important lesson in communication and putting your cards on the table and
before you enter into a relationship.
Or even if you're already in a relationship, to keep the relationship healthy.
Yeah.
It's really, it's so that's because you're already in a lot of relationships. You need to identify what's working and what's out of balance, and where can it be better? Okay, well,
it's pretty interesting. You've now built an entire business model around that concept, essentially. It must have been a big lesson.
Well, I think, and probably a lot of other things along the way, just, kind of began to build that. But it is interesting that you share that, because I hadn't thought about it like that. But I think you're right. I mean, I think that we've all had so many relationships or we've been working with companies where there's a lot of games going on and politics and things that are just not fully above board.
Right.
And they're hurtful and they're unproductive.
Right.
And damaging. It can be damaging to careers. And so I think that part of where this evolved was just, wanting to, can we just get along? But, how do we do that? Literally, it's as naive as it is. But really, in other words, if you look at the values, we have 8 categories, and one of them is healthy relationships. It's the values for healthy relationships.
And that includes business relationships.
Yeah.
I think we don't necessarily think about that.
Absolutely. So if you look at those values there, including the value of forgiveness,
right?
These are essentials to having healthy relationships.
Yeah.
Whether it be with your brother, your sister, your spouse, your parents. I mean, think of all the families that are dysfunctional and that aren't talking to each other because they can't forgive each other for something that happened maybe years ago.
Right.
Yeah. And the same thing happens in companies.
Yep.
And it's a cancer to the culture of that work environment. And so it's one of the values. You first need to be able to forgive yourself, and you need to ask for forgiveness, and people need to, and so again, don't need to be perfect, but if we start to move in that direction, and I admit to you, I screwed up and I'm taking responsibility for it, and I'm sharing that with you because I want to take responsibility for it. Maybe you'll soften and you'll say, "Oh, David, it wasn't that bad. I forgive you too." And we go out and have a beer together. And we get past it. But me not saying anything, you're holding on to it too. You don't know what's in my mind, and I don't know what's in your mind, and we're just not talking.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then it just goes, and then you just never hear from them.
Yeah.
And then it goes away. Yeah.
The transparency does a lot.
But you're right.
So, it's one of the values. And so it's because in this whole process of talking to so many people, it became clear that's one of the things that impacts the health of relationships.
That's right.
Excellent.
And the health of a company.
Yeah.
And the health of a company.
Yeah. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we're out of time, David. Thank you so much. This was not what I was expecting, as usual, and it's been super interesting in a different way than I was expecting. So thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
And your journey. And we'd love to have you back on. I'd love to dive into some
best of checkup something. We're still figuring out how to check back because we consider this a community building effort too.
Right.
And so it's kind of like everyone who comes on is in our tribe.
And our mission is inform, inspire, and motivate.
Yeah. Informing your ambition. We got a few of those things.
Right.
That's right.
So for folks who are liking folks who are liking what they hear as individuals or as founders who are like, I've got a mission or that's bigger than just profits, and I maybe want to connect with this, what are the best ways for them to connect with you and with the youB community?
Sure. If they go to youB.com, and it's youB, no E.com, they'll come to our website, and there's a page called youB for Business. Okay. And at the bottom of that page, at least it's supposed to be, there was on the last rev, and I think they changed it, but it's going to circle back to that maybe today. At the bottom, there's a place to connect with me. Okay. And there's a form, and if they're interested in learning more, becoming a member, they want to know what's involved with that, whatever, they want to get on our mailing list about notification of a workshop that we're offering online or local. They can just click that, and alternately they can find me on LinkedIn.
Perfect.
Great, David Goldsmith.
Easy to find. David Goldsmith in Providence.
I love it. And Jennifer, where can they find us if they want to be part of our community?
That's right. If you want to be a part of our community, go to Orange Whip, that's orangewhip.com. And or you can go to hellochaospodcast.com to learn more about the podcast. But you can find this podcast on your every podcast platform, so your favorites.
And YouTube, and we're on YouTube.
And if you want to watch it, go to YouTube, or again, orangewhip.com, and you can find the Hello Chaos page. But we're everywhere, and we love people to comment, subscribe, share our stories, and
let us know
and other stories with David's, and
Well, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week. It is a rainy, gray,
and we'll have to come up to Rhode Island and check it out. We need to get Orange Whip in that city.
We got our fall colors going on too. By the way,
thank you. You asked great questions. I love this interview.
Awesome.
And I'm looking forward to seeing it. And if it's okay with you, I'll post it on our platform.
Please
100%. Yeah. All right.
Absolutely.
Give you guys, and I'm going to send you both a link. Well, Jennifer's already joined, and JJ, you can join too. And
absolutely,
we'd be happy to promote what it is that you're doing, and we would definitely welcome you to explore.
Thank you. Yeah,
thanks so much.
Setting up an Orange Whip chapter in Providence.
Would love it.
Would love it. So we'll.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank
you. Thank you, David.
Okay. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Bye.